Welcome. I'd love to respond to so many things that have been said today. Questioning. My God, we've got to know about propaganda. We've got to know about that because it makes you question stuff. But I'm going to take us on a journey of imagination. It's so important. I feel so much energy at this moment in time because I really am looking forward to taking you on this journey of imagination, because it is, in my opinion, one of the main things we do not tap into anymore, because it's for children, right? Imagination's for children. And then over time, we believe that. That's the mindset we believe. And so then we stop and we move into visualization. And they're both important, and I'm going to take you through the importance of knowing the separation between those two. But I want to pick up on one thing first of all. Women are unique that they can have babies. On a daily basis, I'm helping people recover from physical ailments that are considered incurable. Do you know what the world record is for the amount of babies that a woman can have in her womb? Do you know how many? Is it 2? 3? 4? 8? At this moment in time, 9. That's 9 brains that you grow in your body. 9 nervous systems. 9 skeletal systems. And then we've been told that we can't heal ourselves. We've believed, the mindset is that we can't heal ourselves. Yet you've got proof that you can grow a whole system 9 times at the same time in your belly. I said that before, in your belly. And they said it's not in our belly. So, we learn every day, right? Every day's a school day, as they say. So, I'm going to take you on a journey of imagination. And it's really important because when we learn a new skill, and remember, imagination is a new skill. It's a new skill now. It wasn't when we were younger, it wasn't a skill, but it's a way of tapping into that subconscious. It's a way of tapping into the subconscious that releases us from the intellectual mind and enables us to really find out the patterns that we're running, the patterns that we've been instilled with, the reasons why we're creating the world we do. So on a daily basis, I am helping people release from their limiting beliefs, from their beliefs that they've been brought up with and what they've inherited from their ancestry and from their parents. This does not mean we blame our parents, which is so easy to do. Every problem we have, it's our parents' fault. Well, in fact, it's all about mindset. Now, we are born with a mindset that we are taught to blame from day one. Now, the reason why I'm going to start talking about mindset is because imagination is supposed to be limitless. We're supposed to be able to do anything in our imagination. That's the definition of imagination. So I was in New Zealand, in Dubai recently, and I'm helping a lady with her imagination. And she says, it's not working out for me. My world is not working out for me. So I said, okay, what's your living situation? She said, I've got a 1-bedroom apartment and my job isn't going so well. I said, okay, in your wildest imagination, if anything was possible, what would you like in your world? What would you like? And she went, I'd like a 2-bedroom place. Great. So we can work with that. It was a change, right? So I said, okay. So I pushed it a bit further and I said, okay, now, in your wildest imagination, what would you like? Where would you like to live? In what kind of place? She said, what? Anything. And she said, okay. She thought about it and she said, I'd like a villa in Dubai, which is a bit of a step up, right? I said, do you want to live in Dubai? She said, no. And that is where we are in our mind. It can be very limiting in our imagination, even though the definition of imagination is anything's possible. That's the utopian world that we don't enter into. Then I'm working with a group and I said to that group, okay, we're going to do an imagination exercise similar to what you're going to go through shortly. And I started the exercise and one lady started crying. And I said, okay, do you want to feed back to the group and explain what's going on? And she said, I'm afraid If I dream something so big, it will not come true. So that was stopping her from even entering her imagination. So then I realized what really needs to happen before anyone can enter their imagination is we have to help people with a mindset. That has to change. You have to start getting to that place where you can think that kind of anything's possible, just like your imagination. But people have obviously been trained that they're nothing. And there's lots of beliefs that will hold that imagination back. So what I do mostly on a daily basis is I help people change their mindset. A mindset that we're born with. A born mindset nowadays is one where we are taught to blame. From day one, we are taught to blame. Has anyone been in a situation where you're looking after a child and they bang themselves on a chair or a table? What do you do to distract them? What do you do?
Bad table.
Bang the table and say, bad table. We don't teach the child to be more aware of their surroundings or anything. No, we teach them if you get hurt, what you do is you hit something and blame it. And then we wonder why our children are hitting and blaming and not growing. Because that's what we're taught from day one. What happens when you wake up with a stiff neck in the morning? What do? Blame the pillow. So we don't go, well, why was I stiff at night? Why am I stressed at night? And I'm just laying there and I can't move all night. That's why I have a stiff neck in the morning. No, our default, our natural reaction is to go straight to, what can we blame? Straight away, we're asking, what can we blame? And that's our default. So we look on the news and we see all the stuff that's happening on the news and we scream at the TV. That is terrible. And then we stop. No effort goes into a solution. No effort really, apart from a few, go into a creative solution. It's all about blame, 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 blame. So I believe one of the things we have to learn in our journey of life is to move from this mindset of blame to one where we take 100% responsibility for the world that we're creating. That's one of the most challenging things for us to hear. Whatever happens to you, it was meant to be for your growth. So I can get someone to come to me and they said, well, I didn't create that car accident, which is exactly what one lady told me recently. And after a little bit more conversation, she said to me, well, I did spend the last 3 months wishing for a car accident so I didn't have to go back to work. I said, can you see the connection? And, she said, and it's because we're so conditioned to call things good and bad. So if something bad happens in your life, you didn't have anything to do with that. That was bad luck. Anything that you class as good, well, then you'll pat yourself on the back and say that was great. But we can put as much effort, especially when we understand the subconscious. Our subconscious, if it's running a pattern, I'm not good enough, I'm unlovable, all men cheat, all women cheat, well then, can you see how your relationships will be? I created that. So it's one of those things that we are taught from day one to take no responsibility. And then what do we do with that when something happens that we've classed as bad? What do? We use coping mechanisms to overcome it. Let it go. Just get on with it. Just deal with it. Why don't you just let it go? So we're taught coping mechanisms. So coping mechanisms can only last for so long before they show up. Our body is so amazing at guiding us and helping us through this journey of life. It gives us feedback all the time what we should do to help us grow, but we don't listen. We've lost that skill to be able to listen to what our body is talking to us about. Does that sound crazy? That your bodies are here to teach you what you should and shouldn't do? You see people like this? Your muscles didn't decide to go up. Your mind got stressed and then you went, right? So, can everyone stand up for me? So please, close your eyes. And let's just connect with our bodies. So, just be aware of your feet, of your legs, your knees, your hips, your stomach, your back. Be aware of your chest, your shoulders, your neck, your throat, your head, your hair, your nose. Just be very aware of your body. Now think of someone or something that stresses you out. And where does your body tell you it's holding that stress? Really think about that situation or that person that is making you angry, frustrated, sad. Think about that and connect with your body. Open your eyes and have a seat. So again, just with a show of hands, could you feel anything? Yeah? You'll be surprised how many people don't. Because we're running so many coping mechanisms, we're actually starting to get numb to what our body is telling us. One question, and then we're going to do the imagination exercise. What do you think one of the biggest fears of the human is? Just some suggestions. Throw them out. Biggest fear. Speaking. What else? Death. Failure. Wasps. Damn it. That was all I was going to say. Abandonment. Would it surprise you to think that the biggest fear that we have is the fear of being wrong? It's very profound when you get that, because then you realize any belief that you are running, you are creating a world to make sure you're right. Any belief that you're running, you are creating a world to make sure you're right. Let me just run a little scenario past you. Let's say you've been at home and your partner's coming back from work and the last month's been a quite stressful situation. And they're coming home stressed, and that's what you get used to. So you start to walk on eggshells. You start to make sure that you don't upset your partner, and you work in a way to make sure their life's easier because they're stressed. Stress could become like an addiction. So now, one day they come home and they're not stressed. That feels weird. That's the bit now that feels weird, because you've been trained for a month, 2 months, that it's got to be stressful. So what we do subconsciously is then we create a situation, we say something to get them stressed, so we can go, I knew it, every time you come home you're stressed. So we're constantly creating our worlds through the beliefs that we have, which is why it can show up in the most crazy ways. So when someone comes to me and they have a broken leg months before, and I said, very annoyingly, you know you created that. And they said, no, I didn't. I just stepped off the edge and I fell over and broke my leg, or I was on the ski slope and I broke my leg. I said, you didn't create the actual breaking of your leg. You created what it gave you. So maybe work's getting so stressful and you will not take a break. And your body is screaming at you, please take a break, please take a break. So what your subconscious then does is it creates the answer for you. So now you've broken your leg, you have to rest. Have you ever been in a relationship you didn't want to be in? Has anyone ever had that? A lot of people leave their partners after my sessions as well, so I relate to that. So one of the things that happens a lot is that we're not always prepared to make a decision, because we're too fearful or the repercussions are too much. So we hold off. So if you want to get out of a relationship and you're not prepared to be the one that is the bad person, what do? You act really nice, do you? You start to act in a way that makes them make the decision for you. And then they find someone else. And you're like, oh, this is so bad. And now you get all the support from the family and your friends, and oh, can't believe they did that to you. You're so beautiful. You're so amazing. And we don't get that we actually got what we want. How do I know that? Because I treat thousands of people and I've heard every story and every excuse of why the other person was bad and I had nothing to do with it. And it's a whole new level of awareness to realize that we are creating what we want, what we need. But the way it looks can be so crazy sometimes that we can't even enter that space. And it's very amazing. It's amazing to me to see people change and transform so much when they get closer and closer to this mindset, which is they start taking responsibility for their world. Now, in this room, we're all co-creating. In the world, we're always co-creating. There's never one side of the story. But I do let people know that if you want to get the maximum learning out of every situation that you're in, then you need to take 100% responsibility for your part. If you're running a project and you've got a difficult employee that isn't doing it very well, in your opinion, then that's a learning opportunity for you. Maybe you've got to learn that you're treating everyone the same and not everyone's the same and you've got to manage people differently. But you haven't had that mindset, so you've been treating everyone the same. And this one person is putting their hand up going, I don't want to be treated like that. I work differently. Give me more autism. More autism? Autonomy. I'm going to tell you a story about autism. I am. I actually am. It's my subconscious helping me out. I went to America and I was asked to go to an autistic school. And me and my friend went, and I do certain energy things that's alternative. And I've traveled the world for the last 6 years, just learning from anyone that does anything different with the human body. And so I walked into the school, and what I did is I went straight to the teachers. And I helped the teachers release from their fears and their concerns that they're going through. Instantaneously, the autistic children changed. And the owner of the school couldn't believe the difference. So I thought that was a one-off. I mean, autistic children generally do not hug other people. They're amazing, but they have what we call some social issues. So another lady comes to me and I'm helping her because I'm a bit more confident that I could help her child. So I help her clear from her stuff. She wrote me a testimonial and said, I don't know what to do with my autistic son. He's got so much love in him at this moment. He's going up to strangers and hugging them. This is the first time this child has ever done that in his entire life. So when parents come to me to help them with their children, I say, no, you. I help you clear from what you need to clear from, and then just watch your children change. And that's the way the world's going to change ultimately, is when we do go in, when we do change ourselves, and then just watch the world adapt to your change. Does that make sense? But what... Thank you very much. So, to the point where, one more story, and we're definitely getting to the imagination part. A 9-year-old was brought to me in Austria, and she's going to go to a psychiatric school because she's crazy, because she doesn't sit down in the school. She's always up, running around, and doesn't do what the teachers say. So she's crazy, right? That's what's been said, and because she doesn't conform, she's now crazy and she needs medication and she needs to go to a psychiatric school. So they hear I'm in town, so they ask for my help. Immediately, I treat the parent. She's there in the same room, so that's great. What it was is that the mum saw the child, and all she ever saw was the ex-husband in the child. So that's what she's being controlling and mean to the child and creating stress, because every time she sees the child, she doesn't see her 9-year-old. She sees the ex-husband that she was blaming for all of her issues. As soon as she changed, this child completely changed and no longer had to even be considered to go into a different school. So the point of these stories is, I see it every single day of my life where someone clears from their fears and their limiting beliefs And then someone in their world, in their ecosystem, changes instantaneously. It happens all the time. And that's ultimately the most powerful stance that we can be in. When we change and stop trying to change our external world, then you will see huge change in your ecosystem, which will then mushroom around the world. Can everyone close their eyes for me? In your mind, imagine you're on a trampoline. See the trampoline and see yourself bouncing on the trampoline. The trampoline is blue. You're wearing a white outfit and you're jumping on the trampoline. And now 10 penguins come along and join you. Just watch. Okay, open your eyes. So what you've just experienced is the difference between visualization and imagination. Visualization was me guiding you to exactly what you should see. The imagination part's the fun part, where you see something and you just watch it happen. That's the bit we're missing, because we've all been told that we've got to control the world. We've got to control every situation. When in reality, it's always been an illusion that we've ever controlled anything. It's a reality that we've always been creating everything. And it's a huge difference. You don't control anything and you never have. What you've actually been doing is always creating your world. And then if you have similar people around you, then you will create as a group. You go to Compton or you go somewhere where there's gang culture, well, that gang culture is creating as a group. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go on a longer journey into our imagination. And the definition of imagination is that anything is possible. So as much as you can, I'm going to guide you through an imagination exercise. As much as you can, I'm going to offer you visualization suggestions. After that, when I say, now just watch, let's just see where your imagination takes you. And I will constantly just guide you, and then you just keep watching to see what your imagination does. So please, close your eyes for me. I want you to find yourself in a forest. One you've been in before, or one that your imagination can just make up in any way. Just explore that forest. You find a bike. What do you do with it?
Can you speak up? I'm really sorry.
No problem. In the distance, you see a house. Make your way towards the house. Anything is possible. You can fly, you can crawl, you can do flips, anything. Go in the house, look around, and find somewhere where you are going to relax. In your imagination, sit down, close your eyes, and it's from here we're going to imagine. Find yourself on a beach. You're going to start noticing animals appear. One animal in particular will resonate with you. Communicate with this animal. You can ask this animal anything. As this animal leaves, another one arrives. Communicate with this animal. I want you to tell this animal, in your wildest dreams, how would you, in an ideal world with no limitations, how would you like to spend your days, your weeks, your months? No limitations. How would you like to spend your days, your weeks, and your months? Go on to tell this animal, in your wildest dreams, how would you like to see the world? Your utopian view, in your wildest imaginations, how would this world look and how would you experience it? When you're finished, in the sea, there are some toys for you to play with. Go and play with the toys in the sea. When you're ready, find yourself back in that house in the forest. Open your eyes in the forest, go out the house. Is the forest the same or different? Just explore. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. Now, I don't get offended anymore when people fall asleep during this exercise, because it's a skill now. And like most skills, when you first start it, has anyone tried to learn a new language or a new skill? And you get really tired, right? When it gets difficult, we start to get really tired. It's the same with when you're practicing your imagination. I've had people just shut down and start snoring because they're so not used to using this invaluable part which makes you a human. I've had people just break out in laughter as they've seen a Mexican jumping bean fly across their imagination. And like any skill, when you get better at it, you start to get the real benefit of entering your imagination. You start to get realizations. You start to get the most creative ideas to the problems that you're facing at that moment in your life. It's an amazing way to help yourself find out what patterns you're running and how to help yourself clear from those. But you know what the real key is? What you've just done. How much effort have you put in the last 5 years into that much work to think how you would like to spend your times? in your ideal work? How much have you put into dreaming about how your life would live? How it would look? Have you done that before? So I get so many people coming to me telling me their life isn't working out the way they want it to. And then I ask them, how much effort have you put into actually dreaming about the life that you want? And they're like, what? How much have you put into dreaming about your ideal world? I don't get what you're saying. What do you mean? None. Absolutely none. So we're very good at complaining and blaming the world for why our life isn't the way it should be. But ultimately, we've put very little effort actually into dreaming about the life that we want from a real fearless place. How many of you have dreamt about the ideal world you want to live in? How much time and effort have we screamed at the TV of how bad the world is? Quite a bit of energy, right? And that's the definition of propaganda. The definition is, or the purpose of propaganda is to take your attention away from what your dreams are and to force it over here into exactly feeding the problem that you want to change. We're not being taught to actually feed the solution. So my goal really is to get people into that place where their knee-jerk reaction when something happens in their life is to, what's the solution? At the moment, our knee-jerk reaction is, what can I blame? Imagine how the world will be different when our knee-jerk reaction is, what's the solution? What's the creative solution to this? And not putting any energy into calling something bad, negative, or wrong. We can all feel the world that we want to be in. When we see something, we can feel we don't want to see that. But then why spend any time feeding the very thing that we don't want? Why can't we spend 100% of our energy feeding the very thing we want to see in the world? It's because we've been trained to do the opposite. So it's going to take some effort to train yourself to do it another way. So we're coming to an end. So that's why it's really important for later on today that we tap into that part so we can feel what we want to change in the world. But let's give 100% to the creativity and the solution rather than feed the very thing we don't want to see. Thank you very much.